Imagine you are standing on a desert plain where the dust is the color of rusted iron and the sun is a tiny, pale blue marble hanging in a butterscotch sky. You are tens of millions of miles away from every person you have ever known, every tree you have ever climbed, and every breath of air you have ever taken for granted. You are on Mars. But here is the part they don't tell you in the heroic recruitment videos or the glossy brochures for space tourism. If you make it to that red horizon, you are likely never coming back. And it's not because of a mechanical failure or a lack of ambition. It's because the moment you step off that lander, your body begins a transformation that makes Earth a forbidden paradise. We've spent decades dreaming of colonizing the red planet, but we are just now realizing that the cost of entry isn't just a ticket, it's your very identity as a terrestrial being. Today, we are going to look into why Mars is a one-way trip for anyone brave or foolish enough to go, and why the humans who live there will eventually become something entirely different from us. To understand why a return trip is so nearly impossible, we have to look at the physics of getting there in the first place. Space travel isn't like a flight across the ocean. You can't just turn around if you forget something. When we launch a rocket toward Mars, we aren't aiming at where the planet is now, but where it will be in 7 to 9 months. This is called a Hohmann transfer orbit. It requires an immense amount of fuel just to break free from Earth's gravity, and even more to align your path with another planet. By the time a crew reaches Mars, they have exhausted the vast majority of their resources. To come back, they would need to find a way to manufacture rocket fuel on a world with no liquid water on the surface, and an atmosphere that is 95% carbon dioxide. While engineers are working on ways to turn that Martian air into propellant, it is a massive gamble. One small glitch in the chemical processing plant, and you are stranded. But let's say the fuel isn't the problem. Let's say we have a perfect return ship waiting on the launch pad. There is a much bigger obstacle, and it's hidden inside your own cells. Our bodies evolved for exactly one environment, Earth. Specifically, we evolved for Earth's gravity. When you remove that constant downward pull, things start to go wrong almost immediately. On the long journey to Mars, astronauts spend months in microgravity. Without the weight of your body to support, your muscles decide they aren't needed anymore. They begin to wither away or atrophy at an alarming rate. Even with hours of intense exercise every day on treadmills and resistance machines, astronauts on the International Space Station lose significant muscle mass. But it's the bones that are the real concern. In space, your body starts reabsorbing bone tissue. You aren't just getting weaker, you are literally dissolving from the inside out. You lose about 1% of your bone density every single month. By the time you land on Mars, your skeletal structure is far more fragile than when you left. Now you arrive on Mars, and you feel that pull again. But it's not the gravity you remember. Mars has about 38% of Earth's gravity. It feels light, bouncy, and effortless at first. You can jump 3 times as high and carry heavy equipment like it's nothing. But your body continues to adapt to this new normal. Over years of living on Mars, your heart, which is also a muscle, doesn't have to work as hard to pump blood against gravity. It physically shrinks. Your fluid levels shift. Your bone density stabilizes at a much lower level than a human on Earth. If you spent 5 or 10 years in this low-G environment, your body would reach a new equilibrium. Returning to Earth would be like stepping onto a planet with triple gravity. The weight of your own limbs would feel like lead. Your heart might not be strong enough to push blood up to your brain against the heavy pull of Earth, causing you to faint or suffer heart failure. Your bones, now thin and porous, could snap just from the simple act of trying to walk. For a long-term Martian colonist, Earth becomes a high-gravity trap that their bodies simply can't survive. Beyond the gravity, there is the silent, invisible threat of radiation. Earth is a protected sanctuary. We have a thick atmosphere and a powerful magnetic field that acts like a giant shield, deflecting the high-energy particles streaming from the sun and the deep cosmos. Mars has almost none of that. Its atmosphere is incredibly thin, and it lost its global magnetic field billions of years ago. On the surface of Mars, you are being pelted by galactic cosmic rays and solar energetic particles. These aren't just glowing lights. They are tiny subatomic bullets that tear through your DNA. Living on Mars means living in a constant state of cellular repair, even with thick shielding on habitats. Perhaps by burying them under meters of Martian soil or regolith, the exposure over a lifetime would be massive. The damage to your nervous system and your internal organs would accumulate. Scientists worry about space brain, where radiation exposure leads to cognitive decline, memory loss, and shifts in personality. If you've spent a decade on Mars, your biology might be so altered or compromised that the rigors of a return flight through even more space radiation would be a gamble too far. Then we have to consider the psychological reality. We are social animals rooted in the nature of our home world. We find peace in the sound of wind through leaves, the smell of rain on dry earth, and the infinite blue of the sky. On Mars, you are living in a pressurized can. Every breath you take is recycled. Every drop of water you drink has been through a filtration system 1,000 times. You can never go outside for a stroll. Every time you leave your habitat, it is a high-stakes operation involving airlocks, pressurized suits, and constant monitoring. The Earth out-of-view phenomenon is a real psychological concern. On the Moon, astronauts could still see Earth, a big, beautiful marble in the sky. It felt like home was just over the hill. On Mars, Earth is just a tiny dot, barely distinguishable from 1,000 other stars. The isolation is absolute. The realization that help is months or years away changes the way a human mind functions. You develop a Martian identity because you have to. You become loyal to the people in your habitat because they are your entire universe. Returning to a planet with 8 billion strangers and overwhelming sensory input might be more than the human psyche can handle after years of Martian silence. Let's talk about the logistics of the return window. Earth and Mars only get close to each other once every 26 months. This means that if you go to Mars, you are committed to staying there for at least 2 years before the planets align for a return trip. In those 2 years, the adaptations we discussed, the muscle loss, the bone thinning, the heart shrinkage, are already well underway. But more importantly, the infrastructure required to launch a rocket from the surface of another planet is staggering. On Earth, we have thousands of people working on a single launch, with massive gantries, cooling systems, and fueling stations. On Mars, you would have to do all of that with a small crew and robotic systems. If a single valve freezes or a single sensor fails due to the fine, abrasive Martian dust, you are not going anywhere. This dust is one of the most underestimated problems. It's not like beach sand. It's electrostatically charged and incredibly fine, like wood ash. It gets into everything. It wears down seals, clogs filters, and coats solar panels. The toll it takes on machinery over 2 years would make a return vehicle's reliability a terrifying question mark. Many visionaries like Elon Musk have been very open about the fact that the first pioneers heading to Mars should be prepared to stay for the rest of their lives. The goal isn't just to visit, like we did with the Moon. It's to stay. And staying means building a society from scratch. This brings us to a fascinating and somewhat unsettling concept: the biological divergence of humanity. If a colony on Mars becomes self-sustaining and stays there for generations, evolution will take over. Without the heavy pull of Earth's gravity, children born on Mars might grow taller and thinner. Their bone structure would be lighter. Their cardiovascular systems would be tuned for 38% gravity. Within a few centuries, a Martian human might look physically distinct from an Earth human. They would be a new branch of the human family tree. For them, Earth wouldn't be home. It would be a legendary, mythical place with crushing gravity and dangerously thick air. They wouldn't be able to come back because they were never from Earth to begin with. The economic reality also leans toward a one-way trip. The cost of sending a single human to Mars is estimated in the billions of dollars. Bringing them back doubles or triples that cost because of the extra fuel and equipment needed for a two-way journey. For the price of one return mission, a space agency could send 3 or 4 people on a permanent stay to establish a base. From a purely utilitarian standpoint, the colonization model favors those who stay. They can build greenhouses, mine for ice, and expand the habitat. A person who stays is an asset. A person who leaves is a drain on resources. The first explorers will likely be scientists and engineers who understand that their contribution to the future of our species is more important than their own return. Think about the atmosphere of Mars once more. It is so thin that it's nearly a vacuum. If your suit leaks, the drop in pressure would cause the gases in your blood to turn into bubbles, a condition much like the bends that divers get, but much faster and more severe. The temperature can swing from a survivable 20 degrees Celsius at the equator during noon to a bone-chilling -80 or lower at night. To survive here, you are entirely dependent on technology. There is no living off the land in the traditional sense. You are living inside a machine. This level of dependency creates a new kind of human culture. On Earth, if our technology fails, we can still pick fruit or find a stream. On Mars, if the oxygen generator stops, The clock starts ticking. This constant low-level background of danger creates a mindset that is very different from ours. Martians will be the most disciplined, technically proficient, and communal humans to ever exist. They have to be. There is no room for error, and there is no room for selfishness. This cultural shift might be the hardest distance to bridge if they ever tried to return. They would find Earth's casual attitude toward resources and environment baffling, perhaps even offensive. Now consider the mystery of the Martian soil. Recent missions have found that the dirt on Mars is full of perchlorates, which are chemicals that are quite toxic to humans. They can interfere with the thyroid gland and cause all sorts of health issues. This dust is everywhere. It's on the suits, it's in the airlocks, and eventually it will be inside the habitats. The long-term health effects of living with Martian perchlorates are unknown. If someone spent years inhaling trace amounts of this toxic dust, their lung and endocrine health might be so compromised that they could never pass the rigorous medical requirements for a return flight or survive the recovery period once they landed on Earth. The planet itself is trying to keep you there, in more ways than one. There is also the vomit comet effect on a grand scale. When astronauts return from just 6 months on the ISS, they often can't stand up. They have to be carried out of the capsule by teams of medics. They spend weeks in physical therapy just to relearn how to walk without stumbling. They suffer from dizzy spells and vision problems because the fluid in their eyes shifted during their time in space. Now imagine that after a multi-year mission, the physical toll would be exponentially worse. The recovery process would take months of intense medical intervention. For a private company or a government agency, the liability of bringing back a broken explorer might be seen as too high compared to the glory of having a hero living and working on a new world. The idea of Martian sovereignty is another reason why people won't come back. History shows us that colonies eventually want to govern themselves. The distance between Earth and Mars is so great that a real-time conversation is impossible. Depending on where the planets are, it takes between 3 and 22 minutes for a radio signal to travel one way. You can't have a phone call. You can only send video mail. This delay means that Martian colonists will have to make their own decisions. They won't be able to wait for instructions from Earth if something goes wrong. This independence will quickly lead to a sense of us versus them. Why would a Martian colonist who has built their own home, grown their own food, and survived the harshest environment known to man want to return to an Earth that they no longer feel connected to? They are more likely to declare independence than to buy a return ticket. Let's dive deeper into the idea of the Mars sapiens. If we ever want to truly thrive on Mars, we might have to use genetic engineering. To survive the radiation and the low gravity, we might choose to edit the human genome. We could enhance bone density, improve cellular repair mechanisms, or alter the way our lungs process oxygen. If we do this, the humans on Mars will literally be a different species. A genetically modified Martian would be perfectly adapted to their home, but Earth would be a place of suffering for them. Their modified bodies might not even be able to process the microbes or the oxygen levels of Earth. The return would be biologically impossible. They would be the first true extraterrestrials, even if their ancestors came from Florida or Kazakhstan. The psychological bond with Earth is fragile. Think about the overview effect that astronauts describe. When they see Earth from space, they feel a profound sense of unity and a desire to protect the planet. But on Mars, that view is gone. You are looking at a horizon that doesn't have a single blade of grass. The Martian view will be different. It will be a view of potential, of a world that is unfinished. To a pioneer, the work of building a world is more addictive than the comfort of an old one. They will see themselves as the founders of a new civilization. Leaving Mars to go back to Earth would feel like abandoning your children or leaving a masterpiece half-finished. The pioneers won't come back because they will be too busy building the future. There is also the concept of planetary protection. We are very worried about contaminating Mars with Earth microbes, but we are just as worried about the reverse. If there is some kind of microscopic life on Mars, however unlikely, we don't want to bring it back to Earth where it could interact with our biosphere in unpredictable ways. A returning astronaut would have to undergo months of extreme quarantine. They would be treated like a biological hazard. For many, the prospect of being locked in a sterile room for months after a grueling multi-year mission would be the final straw. It's easier and safer for everyone to just stay put. The sheer beauty of Mars is another factor. We think of it as a desert, but for those who live there, it will be a place of incredible sights. The Olympus Mons, The largest volcano in the solar system is 3 times the height of Mount Everest. The Valles Marineris is a canyon system that would stretch from New York to Los Angeles. The blue sunsets, the towering dust devils, and the crystal-clear night sky with 2 moons, Phobos and Deimos, zooming across the stars. Once you have seen the majesty of a new world, the explorers who go to Mars are by nature people who seek the horizon. Once they find a new one, they won't want to look backward. We also need to consider the sunk cost of the journey. To get to Mars, you have to give up years of your life. You miss weddings, births, and the passing of loved ones. You sacrifice your health and your comfort. By the time you reach the point where a return is possible, you have already invested so much in your new life that the idea of resetting back on Earth seems exhausting. You have a role on Mars. You are the chief botanist, or the lead engineer, or the person who keeps the life support running. On Earth, you are just another person in the crowd. The sense of purpose found in a colony is something that Earth can rarely match. Let's look at the Mars One project from a few years ago. While it eventually failed, it received over 200,000 applications from people who were willing to go to Mars on a one-way trip. This shows that there is a deep, almost primal desire in some humans to explore, even at the cost of their own lives or their connection to home. We are the descendants of people who walked out of Africa, who crossed the Bering Land Bridge, and who set sail across the Pacific in tiny canoes. Those people didn't come back either. They found new lands and they stayed. Mars is just the next step in that ancient story. The people who go won't feel like they are losing Earth. They will feel like they are gaining the universe. As we look toward the 2030s and 2040s, when the first human footprints will likely be pressed into the red dust, we have to change our perspective. We shouldn't look at a Mars mission as a visit. We should look at it as the birth of a second home for humanity. The technical, biological, and psychological walls between Earth and Mars are so high that they effectively create 2 different worlds. The journey to Mars is a filter. It strips away the things that make us Earthlings and replaces them with the traits of a Martian. In those final moments before the first crewed rocket leaves Earth's orbit, the people inside will know the truth. They will look at the blue horizon of their home one last time, recognizing that the gravity holding them down is the very thing they are leaving behind forever. They are moving toward a world that will break their bones but build their spirits. They are going to a place where they will be the first of their kind. They won't come back because there will be nothing left for them on Earth that can compare to the thrill of being the first residents of a new planet. Mars is a jealous world. It demands everything from you. It demands your strength, your health, and your history. But in exchange, it offers the chance to be immortal in the history books, to be the ancestor of a new branch of humanity. The silence of the Martian plains is waiting. The thin air is waiting. The red dust is waiting. And when the first humans arrive, they will find that they don't want to leave. They will realize that Earth was just the cradle, and you can't stay in the cradle forever. The journey to Mars is the ultimate test of our species. It asks us if we are willing to change, to adapt, and to let go of the familiar in order to reach for the extraordinary. The people who go won't be stranded. They will be planted, like seeds in a new field. They will grow into something new. And while we on Earth might look up at that red dot and wonder what it's like to be them, they will be looking back at us, thankful for the world that gave them their start, but perfectly content in the world they chose for their end. The physics says it's too hard to come back. The biology says it's too dangerous to come back, but the human heart says it's too exciting to come back. We are a species of travelers, and Mars is the greatest destination we have ever faced. It is a one-way ticket to the future, a leap into a new way of being. So, when the day comes that we finally see those first images of a human standing on the red sands, don't ask when they are coming home. They are already home. They have found the place where they belong, and the stars are just beginning to open up for them. The red planet isn't a destination, it's a transformation. It's the end of our time as a single-planet species, and the beginning of something we can't yet imagine. The silence, the dust, and the pale blue sun are all part of a new reality that will belong to the Martians alone. From their perspective, the question won't be why don't you come back? The question will be why would we ever want to? Earth is our past, but Mars is our future. And in the future, there is no looking back. As we wrap up this exploration of the realities of a Mars mission, we have to acknowledge the bravery of those who will eventually take that leap. They are the ones who will bridge the gap between 2 worlds, knowing that they can never cross it twice. They are the ultimate pioneers, and their journey marks a turning point in the history of life itself. The red planet is no longer a mystery to be solved from afar. It is a destiny to be fulfilled on the ground. Keep your eyes on the red dot in the night sky. It represents the next chapter of our story. A chapter where we leave the safety of our home and find our place among the stars. It's a terrifying prospect, but it's also the most beautiful thing we have ever attempted. The humans on Mars will be different. They will be far away, and they will be gone from our world forever. But they will also be the proof that humanity can achieve anything, even the impossible. The silence of Mars is about to be broken, and the echoes will last for millions of years. Thank you for joining us on this look into the future of our species. Stay curious, and never stop reaching for the horizon, wherever it may lead.